There's a reason certain minds terrify the masses, not because they wield violence, but because they cannot be controlled. Imagine a consciousness so disciplined it reads social manipulations like children's books, a will so tempered it bends reality through sheer refusal to break. This is not about raw intelligence or brute force, but about forging mental architecture so formidable it makes systems of power uneasy and weak minds uncomfortable. When Nietzsche declared, "What does not kill me makes me stronger," he revealed the dark alchemy at play. The strongest minds are those that have turned trauma into strategy, fear into fuel, and chaos into a chessboard. Most people live as unwitting prisoners of their own synaptic loops, conditioned to seek approval, avoid discomfort, and obey invisible social scripts. But history's most dangerous thinkers, from Sun Tzu to Malcolm X, understood the terrifying power of a mind that cannot be predicted, purchased, or paralyzed. Their strength wasn't in muscles but in perception, seen through societal hypnosis while others remained entranced. The Roman gladiator entered the arena with a sword. The true warrior enters every room with a mind sharpened to surgical precision. This is not about becoming cruel, but about developing a psychological edge so sharp it cuts through deception effortlessly. When Marcus Aurelius wrote his meditations in war camps, when Cleopatra outmaneuvered Rome with linguistic mastery rather than armies, they demonstrated the ultimate truth. An unconquerable mind is the rarest weapon on earth. And in an age of algorithmic manipulation and attention warfare, building one has become the ultimate act of rebellion. To construct a mind that unsettles the world, one must first understand its blueprint. The invisible pillars that separate unshakable consciousness from the fragile psyche of the herd. The foundation lies not in aggression, but in radical self-possession. A state where external chaos meets internal stillness and shatters against it like waves against granite. Ancient samurai called this Fudshin, the immovable mind, while modern neuroscientists might describe it as prefrontal cortex dominance over amygdala hijackings. But the essence remains unchanged. True mental strength is the ability to stand as an observer of your own thoughts rather than a prisoner to them. The first pillar is perceptual sovereignty, the dismantling of automatic reactions. Most people are psychological marionettes, their emotions jerked by social approval, manufactured crises, and primitive threat responses. The formidable mind rewires these circuits, turning triggers into data points. When insulted, it analyzes rather than rages. When threatened, it calculates rather than panics. Like a chess grandmaster seeing 10 moves ahead in a street brawl. This mental mode creates an aura of unnerving precision that ordinary minds interpret as supernatural. The second pillar is shadow integration, where Jungian theory meets street-level pragmatism. What weak minds suppress: rage, ambition, dark humor. The strong mind harnesses as fuel. There's a reason the FBI profiles calculated criminals as cold rather than emotional. It's the channeling of primal drives into ice-cold execution that unsettles observers. This isn't about becoming emotionless, but about making emotion a weapon that fires at your discretion rather than exploding in your hands. The final pillar is temporal mastery, the mental elasticity to stretch or compress time perception at will. Normal brains are enslaved by immediacy. The dopamine rush of notifications, the panic of looming deadlines. The disciplined mind operates on its own chronometry, able to slow moments of crisis into manageable frames or accelerate through drudgery like a time-lapse photograph. This explains why Navy SEALs report bullet time perception in gunfights, or why master negotiators can make 10 seconds of silence feel like an eternity to their opponents. History whispers its truths through symbols, and the journey to an unconquerable mind is etched in the world's oldest allegories. Consider the Norse myth of Odin, who plucked out his own eye to drink from the well of wisdom. A brutal metaphor for the price of true sight. The God-King did not gain knowledge through comfort, but through willing self-mutilation, trading immediate wholeness for ultimate power. This is the first great shadow truth. What makes a mind terrifying is not what it adds, but what it sacrifices. The modern parallel lives in the executive who abandons social media to regain focus, or the artist who destroys their early work to forge better creations. There is always a meme as well somewhere. waiting for your payment in blood or comfort or tradition. Alchemy's magnum opus provides another lens. The transformation of leaden thoughts into golden awareness through the nigredo stage of dissolution, where ordinary minds cling to their familiar forms like children to blankets. The alchemist mind learns to watch itself burn. The Zen parable of the student who must empty his teacup before receiving wisdom speaks to this same truth. Mental strength begins not with accumulation, but with the terrifying willingness to stand naked in the storm of your own deconstruction. When Nietzsche Zarathustra declared one must still have chaos in oneself to give birth to a dancing star, he revealed why most flee from true power. It demands we become comfortable with the very disintegration others spend lifetimes avoiding. Even nature conspires to teach this lesson. The diamond forms under pressure that would shatter weaker stones. The ancient bristlecone pine thrives in conditions that kill faster-growing trees. These are not motivational metaphors but biological imperatives. The same forces that destroy the fragile are the architects of the unbreakable. The mind that scares people is not born in libraries or dojos, but in the silent crucible where a human being stares at their own limitations and decides, like Cortez burning his ships, that there will be no retreat. The true measure of mental strength reveals itself not in philosophical musings but in the crucible of daily existence. That moment when the cashier's careless insult sparks a surge of rage, when the unexpected rejection letter arrives, when the crowd laughs at an unconventional idea. Here, in these unglamorous battlegrounds, the architecture of an indomitable mind proves its worth. The practitioner begins with micro-victories, the conscious breath between trigger and response, the scheduled hour of digital abstinence amidst an ocean of notifications, the deliberate embrace of uncomfortable truths about one's own limitations. These are the first hammer strikes against the molten steel of consciousness. Consider the corporate strategist who trains her mind through scenario planning. Not just anticipating moves but inoculating against emotional disruption when plans fail. Or the emergency room doctor whose clinical detachment isn't absence of feeling but supreme channeling of it. Their strength manifests in what they don't do. Don't panic, don't take things personally, don't confuse the urgent with the important. In a world where attention is the new currency, the simple act of maintaining focus for 3 uninterrupted hours becomes a revolutionary act. The social media age has produced a peculiar irony. The more connected we become, the more vulnerable to mental fragmentation. Thus, the modern warrior's first weapon is the power to disconnect, to metabolize information rather than be consumed by it. The societal implications ripple outward like shockwaves. History's greatest upheavals were not caused by the strongest arms but by the most resilient minds. From Mandela's 27 years psychological resistance to Solzhenitsyn's intellectual defiance of the Gulag system, today's battlegrounds have shifted to boardrooms and digital spaces, where psychological endurance determines who shapes narratives and who gets shaped by them. The executive who sleeps soundly before a merger, the activist who remains composed under interrogation, the inventor who persists through serial failures. They all share this common thread. Minds trained to convert pressure into precision. What we call mental strength is ultimately the mastery of internal alchemy, the transformation of base reactions into golden responses. This is not about becoming inhuman, but about becoming hyperalive, turning the full spectrum of human experience, fear, anger, doubt, into fuel for an unstoppable will. The mind that scares people is simply the one that cannot be controlled, the consciousness that refuses to follow predictable patterns of manipulation. Your call to arms is deceptively simple. Start where you are. The next time outrage beckons, pause and dissect its anatomy. When anxiety whispers, interrogate its foundations. These are the representatives in the gym of consciousness. There will be no fanfare when your mind crosses the threshold. Just a dawning realization that what once moved you now leaves you unmoved. That where others see impenetrable walls, you now see doors. The strongest minds in history were not gifts but forgeries, hammered into being one deliberate thought at a time. The question is not whether you're capable, but whether you're willing to pay the price. Because the steel that emerges from this fire doesn't just scare people, it changes worlds.